Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 4 stories for you from the Tales from Tech Support subreddit. The Karma Stories podcast is published to all major podcasting platforms, and you can also read along on YouTube under our @Karma Stories podcast handle. If you have a story you'd like to submit to the podcast, you can do so by email at karmastoriespod@gmail.com. Alright, on to today's stories. Let's get our nerd on. This story comes to us from Durand54. They said it worked on Windows 95. Cast your mind back to 1995, when Windows 95 became a thing. This is set in late 1995 or early 1996, when new computers came exclusively with Windows 95. I had a customer who had an existing system for inventory, POS, and accounting. It was a DOS-based system and was written in Visual Basic, not Studio or .NET, just Visual Basic. So customer wanted to upgrade computer and existing system to latest version. I was not a reseller for the system, but they agreed to sell a new version to me. I asked them if it worked under Windows 95. They assured me 100% it worked. I assumed they had tested it under Windows 95 after such a definitive statement. I was wrong, they lied. First problem was, they wanted customer details before they sold it to me. I was suspicious, so I gave them his name and my fax and phone number. So then, first problem was, all the data didn't transfer correctly. I rang them, and they asked for a copy of the system. They stated that Windows backup onto floppy disks would be sufficient. So, backup was done, and airbagged to remote city. Clue number 1. A day after they received it, I received a fax addressed to customer with page after page of error messages and a suggestion that customer contact their authorized dealer locally. I rang them and asked politely what restore version they used. They said DOS 6.2. We all know why they got errors, don't we? Versions of backup and restore were not compatible between versions of DOS. I asked less politely why they were attempting to throw me under the bus when the mistake was theirs alone. The answer was not really satisfying. We resolved the restore problem, and then they sent a new version of the transfer program, which did transfer correctly. Then, the customer attempted to do the end of month on the new system. He sold things, and at the end of every month, he ran a summary report on everything he had ever stocked, with on-hand and sales per month columns. He then looked at it on the screen. On his old system, it worked fine. On his new system, it gave out-of-memory errors before it finished the report. It did this even when I quit Windows 95 and the underlying DOS system showed 650 kilobytes free. Clue number 2. I contacted the supplier of this program, and the help person told me I had to run MemMaker on the system to allow enough RAM for the report to run. Evidently, every report ran in memory and had no spooling capability. I advised them that this was a brand new Windows 95 system, and as such, did not have an autoexec.bat or config.sys. It also did not use or need MemMaker. The help person told me, "Trust me, you need to run MemMaker." I asked them if they had run this program on Windows 95, and it turned out that they had not. In fact, they had a copy of Windows 95, but had not installed it. They had plans to install it on one of their own computers at home. As well, they had no access to the developers who existed in another country. They had no idea how to fix it, or even to go about finding anything to do. I realized I had been lied to by lying liars who lie, pants on fire. I had anger issues in those days, especially when people lied to me. I gave them a roasting for being idiots. Unfortunately, I did this in the customer's shop, and I'm sure he heard me call them liars, and worse. I told him that there was no way for me to make his system work for his report without some limit being placed on the number of items selected. In perfect hindsight, perhaps some limit on Vcache in system.ini may have helped, but I have no knowledge of this. In those days, there was not the plethora of websites available with all the knowledge anyone could want. I was never invited back to his shop, and I found out later that the local authorized dealer for that program took over that customer. I have no knowledge if they ever fixed that unpolished piece of crap. I decided I wanted nothing more to do with them. In hindsight, perhaps I could have questioned them more about their blanket statement that it 100% ran on Windows 95. Perhaps I could have been more tactful when talking to them on the phone. Part of the problem was that the customer was an hour's drive from me and an hour back, and that the main supplier of this program was 2,000 kilometers away from both of us. I was calling them on my mobile phone, which cost me lots of money in those days, and I had other customers who needed me more. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called DannyBow87. It says, I think they need to teach in IT courses that people lie and how to deal with it in a constructive manner. In my early days, if a user lied to me and it cost me a significant amount of time, I'd refuse to troubleshoot anything until I received an explanation in writing why they lied to me and how they thought it would help. They never did, and management forced me to help them. Is anybody else having a hard time with the fact that this story happened around 95, 96, and that's almost 30 years ago? Like, come on, 95, 96? That was just a couple years ago, right? What is this 30-year thing? There are a couple of points from this story that we can learn from. Number one, everybody lies, and we just need to figure out how to deal with it. Number two, we need to limit our frustrations when we're in front of customers. And number three, we should always verify compatibility before trying to use something in production. This story comes to us from NewSwan3276. That's not my son's laptop. Many years ago, had a college student bring his laptop for repairs. Keyboard stopped working, according to him, and he had no idea what the cause could be. After he left, I quickly surmised that someone spilled a sugary beverage on it. So I contacted tech support for the model, let's say it was HP, and they quickly placed an order for a replacement part. During the call, support also mentioned that a previous support call was made on this laptop for, you guessed it, a spilled soft drink. Noting that information, I proceeded with the order and, when the part arrived, swapped out the keyboard. After verifying that the laptop was functioning properly, contacted customer to pick it up. I left it running on the repair table and moved on to other tickets. The following morning, I noticed that the screen was blank and decided to tap the keys to awaken it. Nothing happened. Listened and could hear cooling fan running, so I cycled the power. Power's back on, except the screen is still blank. Reached out to the customer to tell them the situation and see how they wish to proceed. Here is when Dad, a local attorney and expert radio TV commentator, gets involved. He starts cussing at me and threatening me with a lawsuit if I don't replace or repair his son's computer. I calmly inform him that no, I will do no such thing for a previously damaged computer. Incredulous, he accuses me of lying about previous damage to cover my butt for negligence. That's when I inform him of the conversation I had with HP. Now I had him dead to rights, but this is where I was surprised. After his brain audibly glitches, he says, WTF are you talking about HP? My son owns a Dell. My response was that clearly there is some misunderstanding here on your part because I'm looking at an HP, not a Dell. No apologies, nothing comes from Mr. Attorney. Instead, he sends the kid to come get the laptop and pay the bill. I had to know what the heck just happened, so when the kid shows up, I ask. He sheepishly admits that he had his frat bro's laptop because frat bro had broken the kid's Dell laptop and given the kid his HP laptop. Guess frat bro never mentioned spilling a Coke on the HP, and this kid figured his parents would be none the wiser. To this day, Mr. Attorney is on TV and radio to offer his opinions on whatever legal cases in the news, and I chuckle every time I see or hear him. OOP, there is a huge opportunity here, especially if this guy is actually doing call-in shows on the radio or on TV. You need to call in and ask for advice on someone who claims professional negligence against you, and then give details of the claim without mentioning his name or your name as the two parties involved. I would almost pay to hear that phone call. Speaking of phone calls, our next story comes to us from Speddy23, when a call out of the blue from Dell wasn't a sales call. Way back when I was working the service desk for a large organization who almost exclusively used Dell for their end user hardware. On a fairly quiet day, I get a call. "Hi, this is my name from Dell. Have I come through to company name's IT department?" "Yes, this is the service desk at company name. I was just calling to see, how often do you refresh your hardware, specifically monitors?" At this point, I'm pretty sure it's a sales call, but it's fairly quiet, and if I'm on the phone, I can't get another call, so I play along. Usually 4 years, but can be more or less than that. "Ah, okay, so you wouldn't dispose of one after say 2 or 3 months? Very unlikely. And what do you do with your disposed IT equipment?" "We use a computer recycler who collects it. I don't know what they do with it after that." So the reason I'm asking is someone has made a warranty claim for a faulty Dell screen. When I ran the service tag through our system, I can see we sold it in a bulk order to company name about 3 months ago. Looks like you also purchased a few extra years warranty on it too. The person who put the claim through mentions they purchased it new on eBay about a month ago. Yeah, that is a bit strange. Yeah, just wanted to see what is happening, as it does seem a little out of the ordinary you would dispose of a screen so soon, especially with the extra warranty. If you can give me the service tag, I'll check our database. That should confirm if it has been retired or not. I get it and run the service tag in our database. Yep, it's showing as an active asset, not disposed of. We got it about 3 months ago, and it should be in our IT storeroom ready for deployment right now. What I'll do is log a ticket noting the service tag with the team that handles purchases and find out what happened. I log the ticket, we exchange reference numbers and end the call. Then I basically just forget about it. A week or so later, an immediate termination request is put through for one of the other IT guys. We were told he no longer works for our company and he left very suddenly without explanation. Later on, I find out through the grapevine he was fired for theft of company property. Basically, he stole a new Dell monitor from the IT storeroom that was intended for stock on hand and sold it as new on eBay. The monitor had a fault, and the purchaser on eBay logged a warranty claim directly with Dell, using the eBay purchase record as her proof of purchase. The seller's eBay account belonged to the person who stole the monitor, and that's how he got caught. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Foxtrot Sierra Tango. It says, "I don't understand how people can be so moronic. I've been involved in 3 theft investigations, all of which were similarly easy to crack. It's like people don't even try to hide their illicit dealings anymore." On a personal note, I once worked in a convenience store where an employee there had figured out how to do a no sale on the register, and over a period of about 6 months, managed to steal about $10,000 worth of cash out of the register without it showing up on the end of day reports. They had bought all kinds of new things for themselves, including a new car, and explained it away as some other way of getting the money. But the best thing about this is once the investigation was complete, the next shift he had in the store, he walked in to security from that store's head office and also the police waiting for him. So, don't steal from your company, you will get figured out, and it's not worth it. This story comes to us from Universal Binary. "All my pictures have turned into horses." Back in the 90s, during the dial-up era, when dinosaurs, 486s, still roamed the earth, and line noise ate your downloads for dinner, I was working for a local ISP. I was recently promoted out of support into junior sysadmin, but I was still the person they went to for problem calls. And I actually enjoyed that. Some guy with a Commodore that was having trouble dialing in? Sure, I'll help. That OS2 user? I used to use OS2, I can help. Linux? I use that at home, I'll help. It was fun. But not this call. One fine morning, the sunlight was streaming in the window. I was sitting in my office, and a support person walked in my door, saying, "I've got a problem call on hold, can you help?" That was typical, but what was odd was the support person's demeanor. His tone of voice was pleading, He looked actually afraid that I might say no. I asked, "What's going on?" She says all her pictures have been turned into horses. Pause. My brain was having trouble with that sentence. What? Yeah, she says all her pictures are now horses. What pictures? I don't know. She's frantic, mad, and clueless. She can't even explain. Please help. Okay, sure. Support person departed at a much higher velocity than usual for a person that was about to return to his office and take more support calls. I picked up the call. The customer, who I'll call HL for reasons that will become clear, was indeed frantic, mad, and not particularly computer literate. "Hi, this is Universal Binary. How can I help?" "I've been hacked. Your system is terrible. How could you let someone turn all my pictures into horses?" After much discussion, I determined that the photos were on her website. Like most ISPs at the time, ours offered each customer a few megabytes of disk space, which was plenty to host a website at the time. HL had somehow managed to figure out how to put up a website, and I pulled it up. It looked like a run-of-the-mill amateur website at the time, and indeed, all photos on the site were of horses, incongruous horses, instead of whatever was supposed to be there. Navigation icons, a map, etc. Everything was now a horse, or more. I had to mute myself when I saw it come up on screen, or the customer would have heard my laughter. Nothing on the site had anything to do with horses, and yet there it was, full of horses. I looked into it more. Nothing had been recently modified. It turned out that she didn't have any pictures in her public HTML directory at all. Every image was coming from a different server by using its URL in her image source tags. In other words, she was basically stealing photos and bandwidth from someone else. I suspected that person found out and replaced all their images with horses, but maybe they just took a random turn for the equine. In any case, despite my attempts, it was impossible to get Horse Lady to understand that she had not been hacked, or how image tags work, or even that she was mooching off someone else, and that what is behind a given URL that she doesn't control might change at any time. Finally, I said, "Okay, let me ask the company owner to look into it and make sure you weren't hacked, okay?" She sounded relieved. Finally! Now it was my turn to go to an office. I went to my boss's office, who happened to be one of the owners of the company, stood in his doorway with that same pleading tone of voice, and "I have a mad customer on the line, and she is sure she has been hacked. I don't think she has, but the only thing that will make her happy is knowing you've double-checked." I explained the saga, watched him try and fail to contain the smile that grew into a chuckle. "Who is this customer?" HL. Now it wasn't a chuckle, it was outright laughter. Without turning to look at his screen or touch his keyboard, he said, "Tell her I've checked and her account is secure." "Okay, thanks." I backed out, told this to HL, and it somehow pacified her a bit, and we ended the call. Boss's office was right next to mine, so occasionally we could hear each other's conversations. I heard several conversations from his office that day that went like this. "OP came to me today to ask if a customer account had been hacked. Apparently all her photos changed to horses." "What? Horses? Had it been hacked?" "Of course not." "Then what happened?" "The customer was HL." Ha 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 ha. Apparently, I was one of the few that had never had a run-in with HL before, but I still remember it nearly 3 decades later. Alright, I don't know about you guys, but unfortunately it took me a long time to realize that HL could be Horse Lady, but it also could be Hotlink, both being very appropriate to this story. It does sound like in this case the customer galloped straight to conclusions about being hacked. It's too bad she couldn't rein in her confusion, but at least you can saddle this story as a tech support legend, and hey, if nothing else, her website really became the main event. If you enjoy daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and add us to your favorites on whichever podcasting platform you enjoy the most. And if you're watching and listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.